Okay, Robert, I have a question for you.
Certainly.
So let's say you listed your home for sale and your realtor suggested that you do an offer night. And of course, you go through that whole anticipation of that 1 week of showings and all that. Come offer night, nobody shows up. Or there were a couple that showed up, but you didn't like what the price was on that offer. What do you do?
Well, now you have to decide whether you got bad advice now or bad advice originally.
And that's what we're going to talk about on this episode of Real Estate Chat with
Robert Eid.
and John De Perez. So Robert shared this article with me entitled Study Shows Most Properties with a Set Offer Date Fail to Sell. And this study was from one of our fellow realtors within the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board and made its way into the Globe and Mail. So I'm going to post some numbers for you and we can sort of set a sort of idea of what this is all about. So according to this study, was what's done in July, according to data compiled by this particular registrant, the percentage of all homes listed for sale that sold on offer day is somewhere around 7% on a Toronto Regional Real Estate Board. So it's not that nothing sells. They do sell, but only about 7%. And this is amidst all of the listings that actually have offer dates. So in July, there were, according to the study, 13,712 new listings reported by the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board, which is up. So that means more new listings came onto the market. 27% of those new listings were posted with an offer date. So close to 1 in 3, well, a bit under 1 in 3. So about 2,879 listings. And the offer date is, of course, we know you list today, 1 week from now, you're going to entertain offers. You won't necessarily entertain offers between now and then because you want to create some sort of a buzz and you want to create some activity happening where there's bidding. And the hope is that seller gets a price that's at or higher than their expectation because multiple buyers bid. And Robert and I are going to talk about in what market that usually happens. But in this market, only about 17% of those sellers who used the offer day strategy actually received offers that they accepted. Another 20% received offers but rejected them. In other words, more than 70% of the time, the offer data strategy failed. Now, failed, we're going to look into the definition of what makes this a failure. And in just more than 10% of the listings, a bully offer was accepted. So a bully offer, properly called a preemptive offer, is somebody who says, I'm way too excited. I don't want to wait till offer date. I want to give you an offer now. Here's what it is. Here's my offer. There's a whole bunch of other numbers in this quote unquote study. We're going to share this in the show description, but I think, Robert, what we've got to look at is let's define the strategy. Let's talk about whether it's useful in this particular market, whether it's a failure if a seller doesn't accept an offer, or whether it's just a market talking. So, Robert, why don't we talk about where was this strategy first used and why did they start holding back offers at some point?
Oh, well, that's a very good question because it starts with the public guardian and trustee. Now, the public guardian trustee takes over properties from a homeowner who's died without a will. And it's a very long process. They get an appraisal, and then it's a very long time before it works through a bureaucratic system, particularly when this happened first in like 1985, 93. And then finally, because they gave that contract out, the appointed person would get the listing. And the rules were the property had to be on the market for 21 days before reviewing any offers to allow fair time for exposure. Now, inadvertently, and this has been the policy for time immemorial. Wow, what that showed many, many times in the hot market that was being experienced by Toronto at the time is that buyers saw the price, they knew the house was worth more than that, and so on the appointed day, 21 days later, they made offers that were way above the asking price, where forever we'd put an asking price on it that was 2 to 5% above the owner's expectation, and people made offers 5 to 7% below, and then they negotiated to a settlement in the meantime. So this caught on in downtown Toronto, and then it rippled out so that finally people in Schenectady, I don't know what's too far and stuff, way place in Ontario that they're doing it right now, they're finally caught on to as a method, because it's a method of, particularly if you have a desire to double end that property, a way to keep it from being sold on the first day to an eager beaver. You get a chance to work on it yourself. You can have an open house yourself. You can put an ad in the newspaper. You can collect some information. You have a few showings, and maybe you can sell it yourself, or somebody within your office or with your team can sell it. So it's a strategy for delaying a hot market. It happened inadvertently, but it came up that what would happen is you'd put the property in Toronto for sale, come for sale on Thursday. And then you'd have an open house on Saturday and Sunday, and you have offer day on Tuesday night. So they gave everybody a chance, if they're going to do a home inspection, to do their own home inspection, to go and see it again, to bring their father, if one person's away in Calgary, to come around and see it again before the Wednesday, the do or die date. So it's still a very good strategy if your property is good. If you have, there's no flaws in it, it's just a matter of how much can I get for it, and I've got to get it by a certain date, the closing date. And so that's 2 months away. So I want to sell it quickly. I want someone to buy it in the first week. And so it's a way of compressing the time, attracting the maximum amount of attention. So it's a very good list low, sell high is what it's called. And really the objective today should be to try and get a preemptive offer. You've had an offer, a date set for a week from now, but I'm open to bids if someone doesn't want to wait that long. Try and find someone who'll give you a firm cash offer with your closing date at the price at or exceeding your wildest expectation before the offer date ever comes. So this study is very good in analyzing how many of everybody is doing it, because the Toronto Real Estate Board has a lot of different listings on it. And then of those, what are their success rates? Now, even if they're off by 5% at every one of those statistics, I think it's a good indication to show anybody deciding on what strategy. Do I do it the traditional way? Do I do it this way? Do I have enough time? Is time something that I want to take advantage of? Something I want to push? Am I under stress? Do I think something can happen in the future that I want to beat?
So here's the thing, and in certain markets that we've seen in the past, not too recent past, like during the pandemic, during lockdowns and whatnot, this became very prevalent because inventory was low, and any realtor could pretty much put any price, arbitrary price. And for those who believe, I mean, it's unfortunate that some buyers believe they could have actually paid $800,000 for a $1.2 million home, and they actually put it there, but it led up the driving up of the price. But let's say we're in a situation right now where inventory has been creeping up. If you've watched our previous episode, if you've liked and subscribed to Real Estate Chat, you would know what's going on in the real estate market. But let's say inventory is creeping up. Let's say there's a lot of competition. There's several houses, there's several options. There's also the consumer confidence of or lack thereof because of the upcoming interest rate hike that's going to be in about a week or so. Is this strategy still relevant? And if your realtor presents you with this strategy, Robert, what would you advise our viewers on whether they should do it or not?
Well, they should look at this report that came out, and they should do it if they want to focus attention on their property. If they think there's 10 houses on the street and they want to be the next one sold, like sometimes this happens in condominium townhouse corporations where they're virtually substitutions for one another. But if someone must sell first of the available supply, then you do this. But the key ingredient then is how much below my expectation do I put the asking price? Because if you put it on with a date, people assume you want 15 to 20% above that as your expectation. So they'll still go and see it because there's not very many to see, and yours got a glowing description and it's in perfect shape and everything's in, wonderful, wonderful shape. So they should go and see it just to evaluate, is this one they should keep on into the back burner for the future date.
So an educated realtor guiding you through this would know that, hey, yeah, they price it this much, prevailing value is this much, so they're X percent, 15%, 20%, and this is where we should be. Now, the article and the study mentions about the 20% failed to sell because of the fact that the sellers actually didn't like the price. So in a situation like that, Robert, where we know how prices have been beaten up since peak February 2022, as a seller, what should the price expectation be when you underprice and expect a certain amount, but you don't get that? Does that mean you were unrealistic about your expectation, or does just that mean the market has adjusted its expectation of the price?
Let's say the answer to that question is yes. That if we have 100, and 100 is what a reasonable person would pay for your property yesterday, then that should be your target. Now, if you want more than that, then either the typical person is unreasonable or you're unreasonable. Now, always mine is better. And there's various reasons why mine is better. I put the solid gold toilet in the basement. There's always a reason. So one of these listings fails only because the price has been misplaced. Now, it's either the anticipated jump that they're going to get above what it's actually listed at, or the impression that the owner has of what they can get using this strategy or any other.
And so it's a matter of expertise of your realtor that you're working with. So make sure your realtor has a proper explanation as to what's going on in your current neighborhood. Because yes, there's a lot of realtors on the Toronto Regional Real Estate Board. Do they know what the last listings have sold for and in terms of what strategy they used? And I guess the last question for this, Robert, will be, let's say you did fail either because you wanted more money and you didn't get it, or the market wasn't there. You failed on offer night, you didn't get the offer. What's the sensible next step? Do you retry that? If you're in a time crunch, let's say you've already bought a place and a closing is set, a month and a half, 2 months or so from now, and of course you're going to be motivated to sell. Meanwhile, interest rate hike announcement could possibly come. Consumer confidence kind of, they have no idea where things are going to go. As a seller, what do you do then? Do you list at market and then negotiate downwards, or do you try it again?
Well, most of the ones that they're talking about that fail, they terminate that listing and then they put it through again as a new listing with a different price and no date. Other times they'll do it again with a different price and a different date and hope that works again, because it works many, many, many times. However, but if there's 10 in your neighborhood and they're doing the same thing, then the best one is going to be successful. So what do? You do what you should have done the first time, is say, it's not just your neighborhood, it's that whole price class, it's that whole type of neighborhood. What are people doing with houses like this? And instead of looking at 100 sales, you're going to look at 10 sales. And instead of looking at 2 months ago, you're going to look at the last 2 weeks. So what really is happening? Are there buyers? Are there not? We know it's only 30% off normal. It's not 100% off normal. It's not 50% off normal. It's just smaller number of selling, smaller number of buyers. And so you just have to be a little bit more precise. You can't be ramshackle. Like, one of the reasons why they're bringing all these fancy innovations to Realtor.ca and Toronto Real Estate Board's new MLS system is so that you don't have to have a real estate brain. You don't have to have any expertise as a practitioner. You can just use the tool that automatically, artificial intelligence gives you the answer. And I suppose it works sometimes. I'm not a fan.
There you go. Last question. Should you buy first and then sell, or should you sell first and then buy in this market?
Okay, we always do the tough thing first, which right now, that's a hard question. Like, if you're looking for a very specific property, you must buy first, because unless you know where you're going, there's no point selling the good place that you have now. And if you have something on the train track that's in terrible shape that you inherited from your sister-in-law's friend, then maybe you sell that first, because until you can just know how much money you have, you're not in a position to get a mortgage to make a purchase. So do the tough thing first is always the answer.
Simple answer. So thank you so much. For those of you who have watched this, make sure you click like, make sure you subscribe, and leave in the comments your thoughts on what we've talked about. And thank you for joining this episode of Real Estate Chat. See you in our next episode. Bye for now.
See ya.